Hello and welcome to this FPL Ultimate Fixtures Guide with me, Holly Shand. It is fixture release day, so that marks the first video on the channel for the 2023-24 season. We've got lots to look through, short-term fixture tickers and longer medium-term tickers, as well as an early look at the captain matrix, the overall calendar and some hot player picks for game week 1. Thank you for joining. You may see a few upgrades around here, some more coming when the game launches in July as well. If you're enjoying this one, give the video a like and subscribe to the channel. Let's get into it. So here it is then, the fixture ticker sorted by difficulty for the opening 6 game weeks of the season. I've tried to use as close to FDR colours on the Premier League website as I could. Few little tweaks in there though, given form of teams at the back end of last season. And as you can see, Manchester City are in top spot, which is going to make for a very template start to the season. It will be interesting to see how Erling Haaland is priced, because with this fixture run, providing he's fit, he's going to be in most FPL teams. Could we see him at 14 million or more? Maybe with these fixtures, FPL will be forced to price him at a difficult position. But, you know, it just goes to show game week 1, Burnley away, Haaland is going to be in at least 80% of teams, you would imagine. He's going to be captained by the vast majority of those as well, and rightly so. I guess the only difficult fixture for City comes in game week 2, Newcastle at home, but then a nice run after that as well against Sheffield United, Fulham, West Ham and Nottingham Forest. They deserve to be at the top of that ticker, and the prognosis for City players is looking very good. We may be forced to double up on them, certainly on their attackers, because Haaland's going to be so highly owned. Grealish is an early player that I'm adding to my watch list because I feel confident that Pep will start him most weeks. If we get movement in a transfer window, which is rumoured to be so with Bernardo Silva and Mahrez, you know, both potentially leaving City, that could leave Foden being able to make the right flank spot his own. So that's something that we can take a look at during pre-season. But certainly for now, Manchester City are going to be locks in our game week 1 side. Moving down the ticker then, and it so happens that most of the traditional big 6 sides are in the top half of the ticker. The exception is Manchester United. And we think of the teams that were really delivering for us at the back end of last season, a lot of them doing really well here as well. We've got Arsenal, Brighton and Liverpool all making the top 5. And, you know, players from those sides are going to be really, really important picks for us. I mean, getting on the right Arsenal midfielder early is going to be a big one. We saw it all last season. It was very difficult to own the right players at the right time. I think the prices of Saka and Odegaard will be closer together, which may make things a little bit easier. Saka with the set pieces, the penalties, that ability to maybe captain him if you really need to might give him the edge. And then, you know, Arsenal defenders have been very good to us in recent seasons as well. Ben White was second behind Trippier only for FPL points last campaign. He's going to get a price hike. If we see the centre-backs like Gabriel slightly cheaper, then they may be the ones to go for. Looking at Liverpool assets again, Salah's going to be very popular for the start of the season, and rightly so. Nice little alternative to Haaland captain for game week 2 with Bournemouth at home. Just don't think about the 9-0 last season where he somehow blanked. We've also got to think about Alexander-Arnold, who we'll be hoping will still be a defender in FPL this season, playing that inverted midfielder wing-back role. He performed, I think he got 8 attacking returns towards the end of last season. While in that new position, he could be close to essential. And then Brighton, we don't really know what to expect from Brighton. McAllister off to Liverpool is obviously going to be a big loss for them. March and Matoma, they were great towards the end of last season, basically for the whole of 2023. So depending on how they're priced, I think we could maybe see one of those in our sides. I think Solly March is the one for me that, you know, you can just expect that consistency from him. And we saw Brighton defenders do very well in the back end of last season. Jason Steele obviously winning the #1 goalkeeper shirt. We also had the likes of Estupiñán popping up with attacking returns. Lewis Dunk, we know he's a consistent performer. So I think Brighton defenders are going to be very popular from the off. And let's not forget Spurs either, who feature fairly highly in this fixture ticker. Harry Kane, a lot's been said about his future. Will he be a Spurs player come game week 1? We don't know that. What we're hoping is that at least his destiny is confirmed and we know what club he's going to be at next season, so we can pick him for game week 1, whether that be at Spurs or elsewhere. But we knew last season that triple up with Haaland, Salah and Kane did really very well, and that's looking like it could be another great option with some nice fixtures to Spurs to start the season, just that North London derby in game week 6 being the only blemish on their record. Now, I've also got the fixture ticker difficulty for the opening 4 game weeks of the season. This time, Brighton beat Manchester City to top spot, with Arsenal and Spurs making up the top 5, which just shows you the value of these players going into those early weeks of the season. Luton also featuring highly in both of these tickers. And one for the watch list. Carlton Morris was, among their top scorers last season in the Championship, so he could be one to watch. And we know that, players from promoted teams tend to be cheap. So, if you pick up a Luton defender, for example, and play them in game week 2 against Burnley at home and West Ham at home in game week 4, that could be a good option as well. Now, I can make infinite fixture tickers for all sorts of variety of game weeks, from 3 game weeks up to 10 or beyond. But if you're really wanting to personalise your fixture ticker, check out the one from Fantasy Football Hub, which is available to their members. I'm an ambassador. I've used Fantasy Football Hub for 4 seasons. Absolutely brilliant, the stuff that you can do on there. And if you're interested in membership, you can get 30% off right now using the link in the description to this video. Moving on to the captain matrix then, and we know that we can captain Erling Haaland pretty much every week in FPL, but we do need to be mindful that a lot of his really great form was at home last season, and he struggled a little bit on the road, particularly against those sides in the top half of the Premier League table. So I'm looking down the ticker, and there's some weeks where we may see an alternative come to the fore. I think game week 1, I know people may go out there right now and say, I'm not going to captain Haaland in game week 1. I think, maybe Rashford's a better option, Saka's a better option. Come the game week 1 deadline on Friday, the 11th of August, most people are going to be going to Haaland, and you know that you're going to follow suit. So that seems like an irrelevant conversation to me. But game week 2, we're probably going to be looking at an alternative, given that City have got Newcastle at home, and when you've got Salah at home to Bournemouth, he could be a very credible option. I think you can back Haaland in game week 3 away to Sheffield United, and at Fulham at home game week 4. Game week 5, we may see that Salah's a good option as well, or we've also got the likes of Harry Kane in there, and then game week 6, home to Nottingham Forest, it's going to be Haaland in there. But, we do need to consider these other premiums. It's always good to have a good vice-captain pick, a good alternative if we do see some rotation, because there are some things in the schedule that we need to note for Manchester City. Winning the Champions League has certainly created some intricacies in the fixture calendar for Manchester City, starting off the midweek after game week 1, where they play in the UEFA Super Cup against Seville in Greece. So that's an early midweek fixture for them. And then if we look further down, this is going to affect us in December. Manchester City will enter the Club World Cup at the semi-final stage, which means that if they make the League Cup quarterfinals, then they will have to use 2 squads in 2 different places. And then the first blank game week of the season comes in game week 18, where City will be either playing in the final or the 3rd place playoff match in the Club World Cup, causing a blank game week 18 for both them and Brentford, with that double game week likely to come later in the season. So that's quite interesting to note in this calendar. Most things in this calendar are confirmed now. I've guessed a little bit of where the League Cup rounds will fall, but they seem to be fairly standard from season to season. Of basically they land in the midweeks where there's no Champions League. Aston Villa, tough start according to the ticker, tough start in terms of volume of fixtures as well, because they've got the Europa Conference League playoff leg 1 and leg 2 coming in the midweek after game week 2 and game week 3, and all the sides not involved in Europe will play in the League Cup 2nd round in that midweek after game week 3, with those teams involved in Europe going in from the third round stage. So it's quite a quiet time for those sides involved in Europe, bar City and Villa. So you look at the fixture ticker, which is really suiting the likes of Arsenal, Brighton and Liverpool. They've got a kind start to the season, certainly game week 1 to game week 4 in the Premier League, which will be complemented by those 3 midweeks. Turns to chaos though after that first international break from game week 5 onwards. Pretty much if they keep going through the rounds of the League Cup, they may not get a free midweek from the first international break up until Christmas time, and you know they're probably going to have to go full strength in most of those. So I've picked out some key players for game week 1 in this one. Let me know in the comments which players are on your radar as a very early look for FPL game week 1. And if you've enjoyed this one, give it a like and subscribe to the channel as well. I'll be back in July when the game launches. Thanks for watching.